So I just went to the intranet and punched in today's mortgage rates and saw that today's rates were at 7.664. And that was with a credit score of above 740. Something real interesting is I clicked on the toggle switch between 20% down and 15% down, and it actually dropped the mortgage rate by a point by deciding to lower my down payment. And the crazy thing is, people ask this all the time. They're like, how come sometimes the interest rate goes down when you put less money down? That doesn't make sense. Well, I'm going to tell you exactly why that happens. But first, I need you to hit that like button. And if you want to know exactly why that number toggles up and down, stay tuned. Hey, what's up? This is your Doom and Gloom Pundit coming to you with another episode. And if you want to see your comments come to life, make sure you comment down in the comment box and hit that subscribe button and turn notifications on so you never miss your opportunity. So people are asking me left and right, should they buy a house with the crappy interest rates? Well, I'm here to tell you, over the course of time, interest rates have gone up, interest rates have gone down, but the one consistent that we've seen over the course of history is home valuation prices consistently go up. However, for 8 months in a row, the national home prices have been dropping month over month over month for 8 months in a row. A lot of people are asking, when is the market going to hit the bottom? That's a really great question. So when the real estate market crashed in 2007, the market dropped in about a 2-year span. So Q1 2007 is when we hit that peak, and it took all the way to Q1 2009 to see the absolute bottom. So that was 2 years after a financial crash. Well, what you might not remember, or you may remember, and you might be even asking yourself this now, is thinking to yourself, wow, I think I remember people talking about buying real estate bank owned in 2010 and 2011. The reason why is because 2009 Q1 to Q4 2011, so almost 2.5 years span, that is when the market basically held into that low position and home prices were really, really low. Now, the thing was, from the peak back in 2007 to 09, and then all the way through, you were looking at about a 25% drop from when it was at its peak in 07, from 09 to 2011. And you have to remember is that the banks were bailing out or getting bailed out by America, and they were basically giving all the houses away for free. And Obama put into place a stimulus giving people a first-time home buyers bonus of $7,500. Maybe you used it, and then you ended up getting taxed on that, which was fantastic. I think I mentioned this in one of my last videos. I actually didn't take that. The banks were offering a lot of things to incentivize buyers to buy, such as paying for their closing cost, which was a lot better than taking that stupid $7,500 stimulus bonus. But anyways, if you think about it, if it took 2 years to hit the bottom, and we are now 8 months into our cycle, we might have another 12 to 18 months left of the market going down month over month. Some markets haven't even seen a drop in the market, and some have actually been seeing an increase. Year over year, the markets are mostly still all growing, but month over month, we know what's happening. So a lot of people are asking, should I buy a house in this market? And quite honestly, the one thing that is real tough to understand is everybody wants to wait for the bottom of the market to come. And the one thing I'm here to say is that if you look at the home prices over the course of the last couple decades, from say 1970 to today, home prices have grown 14x. That means your home valuation back then in the 300s, today up in the, the median home prices are in those 300 to 400 range. If you look at the average sales price, it's up in the 500s, but 14x returns. And the thing that we know is if you're looking to buy and sell every, 1 to 2 years, especially in this time and day, it's probably not going to be a good situation. Now, a couple opportunities that you might have is what they call seller buy downs. Now, what a seller buy down is if you're out there shopping for a home today, the one thing I think you have a big advantage of is there's nobody really out there shopping. And when I say nobody, there's still people buying and selling homes. Houses are still selling. There's a lot of markets where houses are still selling great. However, if you're in a market where the market's slowing down or inventory is lasting a long time, then you have the advantage to the buyer. And so what the seller can do And it's all about how much money you are actually putting down. So the seller is regulated at how much money they can contribute towards your closing costs based on your amount of down. So if you're putting 10% or less down, the seller can contribute up to 3% typically. If you're putting above 10% down, then the seller can contribute up to 6% of the sales price. So right now what they have is two different options. They have buyer prepaids and buy downs on the rates, which is typically what buyers do. They'll spend a certain amount of their closing costs to buy the interest rates down a little bit, which I don't think is a good idea at all. I've never been a big points person because my whole feeling is that you're going to end up refinancing your house down the road anyways or selling it. So there's no reason to give the banks more money today. However, if you can get the seller to pay for all those costs, that's amazing. However, there is another program called the seller paid buy down. What the seller paid buy downs are is there's a couple different options. There's the 2-1 buy down, and then there's the 3-1 buy down. The 2-1 buy down is for the people that are putting less than 10% or that they can only get up to 3% down. So let's say the rate today is at 6.50 for round numbers. It's at 6.7, but today 6.50. What they do is for the next 12 months, your rate would be locked in at 4.5%. And then the following 12 months, it'd be locked in at 5.5%. And then it would end up locking in for the duration of the rest of the 30 years at 6.5. If you look at all the banks and what they're charging for points right now, it's in the upper 1% range. So typically, if you want to buy a point down and get your interest rate, it's usually about 1% of the loan value. So if the loan is $500K, it costs about $5,000 to buy a point down. Right now, you're looking at almost up to 2 points to buy a point down. Why would the banks do this? Well, the banks do this because they know that the rates will eventually come back down. If you look at the historical data on rates over the course of time, rates go up, rates go down, rates go up, rates go down. And right now, the Fed is using rates and increasing rates to stop inflation. And it's really not working that great. The biggest fear that I have is that if you look at the early 1980s, the rates went from 4 or 5% up to 17%, and then they went back down. If somebody asked me today, do you think we will see the rates in the 17s, 16s, 15s? I mean, I really hope that we don't. And even if you look at the course of the last few months, we've been in that 6% range, 7% range. So in 6 months, we've gone from 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7. And so if you, let's just say, for example, they go, 0.5% every month for the next 12 months, that's going to put another 6% on where we are. That would put us in the 12 to 13% range, which sounds crazy. But the reality is, I don't know what this administration is going to do. And if you think about the housing crash of 2007, is the housing depreciation fell 25%. That recession was actually driven by the housing market crash. In the course of history, every recession, housing markets have been typically right around that flat range. There's only twice where the housing market crashed, which is over a 20% drop. And that was in the 2009 era and then also in the Great Depression. So historically, through recessions, housing prices don't really do much. Sometimes they slightly grow, sometimes they slightly decrease, but we've never seen anything like we saw in 2008. And, if you would have asked me a year ago, I would have said you were crazy to think that the government would be putting us in this position of today. But with inventory extremely low, they can do this right now to combat inflation because there's not enough inventory. And it's the same thing with everything else. And this is how the typical left thinks, is that they can squeeze prices, slow down production, create more taxes, and it'll create more money. Well, I've always came from a premise that you create more jobs, you create more people to pay taxes, and you're going to generate more jobs through production. You're going to provide more jobs through selling more things at the grocery store, being able to buy, which feeds back into the economy. It's a grandiose idea of how to stimulate a real economy versus trying to tax everybody and slow down production and squeeze out every last drop as you can. It's really the fast nickel, slow dime approach to politics. If you don't know what the fast nickel slow dime approach is, it's like in any industry, you can either charge a little bit of money, make thin margins and sell a ton of products, or you charge a big fat margin and you slow down production. So if you know you have a cap on what you can sell, and let's just say you're in a fixed asset industry and you just can't create any more products, which maybe that's what they're feeling right now about the housing market. We are actually in a 20 million home shortage, based on what we need. And there's 13 million ready and willing millennial buyers in the wings just waiting. A lot of people are asking me, should I buy right now? And the reality is you have to answer that question. is right now the time for you. And, the thing is like, let's say the housing market drops another 10% over the next 12 months, because we all know that in sometime in 2023, it might be Q4. I personally thought earlier this year that we would see a turn in Q1 of 2023, but things really, really got even worse with the inflation and whatnot. What my guess is, and I actually belong to some pretty good groups of people that have been pretty much always right about these housing market situations, is their consensus is that the interest rates will start going down back in the end of 2023. Everyone is unified in the thoughts that when the presidential election comes around, you're going to start seeing a big reduction in interest rates, because Joe Biden, once again, needs to stimulate the economy and the American people's buy-in. And the only way he's going to be able to do that is by the only way that he can. And that's lowering interest rates. And everyone can sit here and berate me in the comments and say that the federal government and Joe Biden has nothing to do with the Fed. Well, I'm here to tell you, if you believe that, you probably need to pull your head out and see the light of day. Because anyone that believes that the Fed and Joe Biden and everyone else isn't actually intertwined together, you have way too much faith in the government than most people. Because right now, what is happening is unprecedented. This is crazy. The stuff that we're seeing has never been done before in American history. These are the things that they do in third world countries. These are the things they do in corrupt communism countries. This is not that. This is America, the home of the free, the land of the brave, right? Over the past 18 months, since Brandon has taken office, things have gone really, really sideways. And he'll sit there and say that he inherited this mess and this and that and this and that. It's always amazing. It's like the marketing and the sales team talking. Anytime a product is a home run, it's always the marketing team. But anytime a product fails, it's always the sales team, right? So this is what I used to hear in corporate America a lot. And this is what the left does. And I don't know if anybody's ever even saw, there's actually a good article out there describing the differences between the lefts and liberals and Democrats. And so whenever I talk about Biden, I classify him in the left. He's in the left side. He's not a Democrat. He's not even a liberal. He is a freaking leftist. And every time they bring anything up, it's always that it was never their fault. They're the innocent bystanders. And I'm getting sick and tired of this because, being a tax-paying American citizen, own multiple homes and provide multiple jobs to multiple people, it's starting to become evident as times get crazier. I'm like, am I just getting older and paying more attention, or is things really getting weirder? I talk to people 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, and they're like, I've never seen anything like this before. This is insane. So should you buy a house when interest rates are like this? The reality is sooner or later, the rates are going to turn back around. It's just a fact. And I don't know if it's tomorrow or the next day or in a month or in 6 months or in 12 months. But the fact is once they do, and we start seeing a flood of people hit the markets again, we're going to end right back up where we were a year ago when rates were down in the 2s and the 3s, because every time the interest rates increase, it devalues people's money, or they can spend more money to get the same exact house they were trying to buy. And it's just crazy. It's literally like watching your money evaporate in front of your face, because for every percentage increase, you're losing about $50,000 to $70,000 in purchase power. And when rates have gone up 4, 5, 6% in the last year, that's freaking crazy. So if you ever have the opportunity in the history of your life again to buy in the 2s and the 3s, do not wait. I don't care if you think the home prices are too high. The fact is home prices always increase decade over decade over decade. You can look back at the history of American home prices. In 1970, the median home price was $33,000. Today, $350,000. It's just the facts. And people can come to me and say, well, wages have increased, home values have increased, the average home income has increased, and all these things. And that's true. Yes, it has. But if you bought a house back in 1970 for 30 grand and you have that house today and it's worth 350, your asset grew 10x, 12x, 13x, 14x. And let's just say you live to be another 30, 40, 50 years. I don't know how old you are. If a mortgage is 30 years, and let's say you turn that thing into a rental, and now somebody else is paying that, when you go to retire and you have a paid off asset, you're just collecting a check. It's just like that. So there's also tax benefits out there if you're buying investment properties and whatnot, but it's always going to be dependent on your situation and what you can afford. If I was a first-time home buyer in today's market, I'd probably be a little bit excited, not dealing with the competition, but then I'd also have in my mind, are the markets going to crash? There's never a perfect balance. There's never the perfect time. There's only the perfect time for you when you're ready. I'd love to hear your comments down in the comment box. And as always, make sure you smash that like button. And if you want to be notified each and every time I drop a new video, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you never miss your opportunity to hear what I'm saying. And until next time, stay safe and keep your real estate investments safer.